Fear often arrives like a low hum you barely notice at first, a vibration underneath ordinary life. It hides in the pause before you speak your opinion, in the quiet hesitation when an unexpected invitation lands in your lap, in the tightness of your shoulders when the phone rings late at night. After 60, the hum can feel louder. Our culture whispers that opportunity belongs to the young and that caution is the elder's companion. Friends may echo the same message without meaning harm. Be careful. You don't need to bother with that now. Aren't you too old for that sort of thing? The repetition shapes the air you breathe until the world itself seems to say, shrink. But there is another voice, quieter yet infinitely stronger, that waits for your attention. It is the voice of the mind's own ability to grow, to learn, to change its shape. Neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity. Poets might call it renewal. Whatever name you choose, the truth is the same. The brain never stops rewriting itself. New connections sprout like vines in a forest after rain. Pathways of fear can weaken. Pathways of courage can blossom. Age does not seal the doors. You can walk a different corridor any day you choose. Begin by seeing fear for what it is, a signal, not a sentence. Imagine sitting by a window as dusk settles, a cup of tea warming your hands. A memory surfaces, a moment from years ago when a plan failed, when a harsh word cut deep. The body tenses before you realize it. But now, instead of letting the old reflex tighten its grip, you notice. This is fear, you whisper inside. Not a fact, not a prophecy, simply a wave passing through. That single act of naming loosens its hold. You are not the feeling. You are the one who sees it. Every time you witness fear without obeying it, a new neural thread strengthens. Your breath is the next ally. Close your eyes and draw air in for a slow count of 4. Hold it for 2 beats, release it for 6, again and again. The heart steadies. The mind quiets. Ancient circuitry built for survival receives the message. We are safe. From this grounded place, you can ask gentle questions. Is the danger real, or is it a ghost of memory? What would happen if I did the thing anyway? Most of the time, the answer is simple and freeing. Nothing terrible, only the unknown. Action, even the smallest, rewires the brain more than thought alone. Take one step while the fear still murmurs. Walk into a cafe you have never visited. Greet the stranger beside you on a park bench. Sign up for the art class you have secretly wanted to try. Each act sends a signal to your nervous system, I can. The brain records these signals like a careful scribe. Over weeks and months, the trail of courage grows clearer. The old trail of avoidance fades back into weeds. Connection strengthens this process. Fear thrives in isolation, but courage blooms in company. Seek companions who carry light. Share your goals aloud with a friend who believes in growth. Join a community group or an online forum of learners and dreamers. When your hopes live in conversation rather than in secret, the brain treats them as real, and the heart begins to follow. Stories of others who dared. People who launched businesses at 70, learned instruments at 80, found love again at 90, become proof that possibility has no expiration date. Your body is not separate from this journey. It is the fertile ground where new confidence grows. Movement, brisk walks, tai chi, gentle strength training, releases endorphins and nourishes the hippocampus, the brain's memory garden. Each time you feel muscles strengthen or balance improve, you tell yourself a story of capability. I am strong. I am alive. Eat for brain health. Vibrant vegetables, berries, omega-3 rich fish, plenty of clean water. These choices feed the very cells that carry courage forward. Mindfulness is the quiet river beneath all these practices. Sit each morning for a few minutes. Notice the rise and fall of your breath, the play of light on the wall, the symphony of distant sounds. Fear lives in the future and the past. Confidence lives only in the present. By returning to this moment again and again, you teach the mind that right now you are safe. Add gratitude, 3 small things each day. A bird's song, a friend's laughter, the strength of your heartbeat. Over time, the mind begins to default to appreciation instead of anxiety. Language matters more than you think. Listen to the phrases you speak to yourself. I'm too old for that. I could never. That's not for someone like me. Each phrase is a groove in the brain's record. Start to replace them, kindly but firmly. I am learning. I can try. Why not me? At first, these new words may feel awkward, like shoes that have not been broken in, but repetition turns them into well-worn paths of possibility. Memories of failure will visit. Welcome them as teachers. Look at the times you stumbled and survived. What strength did each challenge reveal? Perhaps patience, resilience, creativity. Seen in this light, every past hardship becomes a brick in the foundation of present confidence. You are not the sum of mistakes. You are the sum of recoveries. You have endured every difficult day so far, an unbroken record of survival. Purpose is the final magnet drawing all these elements together. Confidence is more than freedom from fear. It is the energy of meaning. Ask yourself what calls you now. Maybe it is mentoring younger generations, traveling to a place you have always imagined, writing the stories only you can tell. Align daily action with that calling. When your life hums with purpose, fear shrinks to a background whisper. Picture yourself a year from today, looking back on the steps you began this week. Perhaps you have taken that painting class, joined a hiking group, rekindled an old friendship, or simply discovered the joy of solitary morning walks. Each memory will stand as proof. The brain remains alive, ready for adventure, ready for growth. Think of courage as a muscle. It strengthens when used, softens when neglected. Many people believe bravery is the absence of fear, but seasoned climbers, seasoned parents, and seasoned elders will tell you otherwise. Bravery is action in the presence of fear, a willingness to feel the trembling and move anyway. After 60, you have a lifetime of proof that you can endure discomfort. Every loss you have grieved, every change you have weathered, every morning you have greeted after a sleepless night. They are all evidence that you are capable of far more than the mind sometimes allows you to believe. When you pause to recognize the sheer number of challenges you have already met, a quiet pride begins to settle in. And pride, earned and gentle, is a natural antidote to fear. To build that muscle deliberately, create small daily rituals of expansion. Begin the morning with a single act that nudges the edge of your comfort zone. It might be sending a message to someone you admire, trying a new breakfast ingredient, or speaking a kind truth you would normally keep silent. Tiny steps accumulate. The brain marks each one as a victory, and the circuitry of courage strengthens while the circuitry of avoidance fades. You become, through repetition, a person who acts before anxiety can build its wall. Visualization is another powerful ally. Before sleep, close your eyes and picture yourself performing an act that currently feels daunting, delivering a speech, joining a dance class, traveling alone. See every detail, the texture of the room, the warmth of the lights, the sound of your own steady breathing. The brain responds to vivid imagination almost as it does to real experience, firing the same neural pathways. When the moment arrives in waking life, those pathways are familiar, and the fear feels smaller. Athletes use this technique to sharpen performance. There is no age limit on its magic. You may notice that fear often disguises itself as practicality. I'm just being realistic, it says. I'm too busy. It's not worth the trouble. Yet beneath those words lies the same ancient caution. Counter it with questions. Is this truly impractical or simply uncomfortable? What small version of this dream could I attempt today? By breaking ambitions into steps so small they feel almost trivial, you bypass the mind's alarms and begin the journey before resistance can rally. Relationships, too, deserve careful attention. Some people in your orbit may, without ill will, reinforce fear. They may speak often of risk, loss, decline. Spend more time with those who radiate curiosity and hope. Their outlook is contagious. Scientists studying emotional contagion have found that moods, like viruses, spread through social networks. Choose companions whose courage nourishes your own, and you will all rise together. At times, the loudest fearful voice will be your own inner critic. Perhaps it borrows the tone of a parent, a teacher, or an old boss. Instead of fighting this voice, meet it with compassion. Imagine it as a frightened child and respond with kindness. I hear you, but we are safe now. This gentle dialogue quiets the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, and invites the rational prefrontal cortex to lead. Over months of practice, the critic softens, becoming less a tyrant and more a cautious advisor you can choose to ignore. Spiritual practices, whether traditional prayer, silent contemplation, or time in nature, can open a vast perspective that shrinks everyday fears. Stand beneath an ancient tree or gaze at a starlit sky and sense how your life fits into something immense and enduring. When you feel part of a larger story, the stakes of each decision seem less threatening. The question shifts from, "What if I fail?" to, "What might I learn?" That shift alone can unlock tremendous freedom. Travel, even close to home, is another potent teacher. Visit a neighborhood you have never explored, a museum devoted to a subject you know little about, a local festival celebrating a culture unfamiliar to you. Novelty stimulates the hippocampus and strengthens memory while proving to your subconscious that the world remains welcoming. Each small adventure sends a clear message. The unknown is not the enemy. Artistic expression carries similar magic. Paint, sing, write, sculpt, garden. Creative activity engages both hemispheres of the brain, encourages play, and loosens the rigid patterns where fear hides. You need not create masterpieces. The act itself is the medicine. When you paint a canvas or write a poem, you demonstrate to yourself that exploration is joyful and safe. Do not underestimate the role of rest. Chronic fatigue magnifies anxiety. Prioritize deep sleep through evening rituals, dim lights an hour before bed, silent screens, sip a calming tea. As you drift into slow-wave sleep, the brain performs its nightly housekeeping, clearing toxins, consolidating memories, resetting emotional balance. A well-rested mind meets challenge with steadiness. Consider, too, the nourishment of lifelong learning. Take a class in astronomy, philosophy, or digital photography. Learn a language. Each new skill strengthens neural connections and reinforces the identity of a capable, evolving person. Universities, libraries, and online platforms offer opportunities for all budgets. The more you learn, the less room fear has to insist that the world is shrinking. Financial fears are common after 60. Rather than letting vague worry dominate, face numbers directly. Consult a trusted advisor or attend a free community workshop. Replacing uncertainty with information calms the nervous system. Even modest planning provides a sense of agency that crowds out dread. Throughout this journey, remember to celebrate progress. Keep a journal of moments when you acted despite hesitation, the phone call you finally made, the trip you booked, the heartfelt words you spoke. Revisit these pages when doubt returns. They are your evidence, a living record of courage. As weeks turn into months, you will notice subtle changes. Your posture straightens, your voice grows steadier. Situations that once triggered anxiety, meeting new people, making decisions, trying unfamiliar activities, now bring only a flicker of alertness, quickly replaced by calm. The old neural highways of fear lie overgrown. The new roads of confidence gleam with use. This transformation is not a sudden event, but an unfolding. Each breath, each step, each kind word to yourself is a stitch in the tapestry of a fearless life. You are proving moment by moment that the story of growth does not end with youth. The brain remains a dynamic living garden, ready for the seeds you choose to plant today. As confidence takes root, you may notice that opportunities you once dismissed begin to sparkle again. Perhaps you walk past a community center and notice a sign for a storytelling circle. In the past, you might have smiled wistfully and kept walking, but now a quiet impulse urges you to step inside. That simple turn of the doorknob is not just a choice. It is the outward sign of the inward rewiring you have been nurturing. Each new experience reinforces a fresh identity. A person who explores, a person who belongs everywhere life invites them. Fear often masquerades as the voice of reason, but reason itself, true reason, supports growth. Logical thought asks for evidence, and the evidence is on your side. Studies of older adults show that curiosity and novelty keep the brain vibrant. Engaging in challenging activities actually increases gray matter volume and strengthens neural connections, no matter your age. When you remind yourself of this science, you give your courageous impulses the weight of fact, and the old warnings lose their persuasive power. Another powerful tool is service. When you focus on helping others, the spotlight of awareness shifts outward and fear naturally recedes. Volunteer at a food bank, mentor a young person, share a lifetime of skills with neighbors or a local school. Each act of service whispers to the nervous system, I matter, I contribute, I am part of a larger whole. The brain rewards this orientation with a surge of oxytocin and dopamine, chemicals linked to bonding and joy, which in turn quiet the stress response. Helping others literally rewires your inner landscape toward calm strength. Music, too, can be a gentle engine of change. Whether you play an instrument or simply listen with presence, music engages deep emotional circuits that bypass habitual thought. Sing loudly in the car, hum while preparing dinner, dance alone in the living room. These acts of embodied rhythm break the monotony of fearful rumination and open channels of delight. Neuroscientists have found that group singing synchronizes heartbeats among participants, creating a sense of unity that dissolves self-consciousness. As you continue, you may uncover long-buried dreams. Perhaps you once imagined writing a memoir, learning to sail, living in a small cottage by the sea. Fear may whisper that it is too late, but remember, age is not a deadline, it is a credential. Every decade adds depth to your perspective, giving the dream more color and truth. Begin in any size you can. Write a single page, take a weekend sailing class, spend a week near the ocean. Each gesture affirms the possibility of a life that expands rather than contracts. Communication with loved ones will shift as well. When you speak with newfound steadiness, those around you feel it. You may find yourself offering encouragement to children, friends, or younger colleagues, sharing not just advice but the living proof of your example. Confidence radiates quietly, and your presence becomes a calm harbor for others. This reciprocal influence strengthens your own growth. As you mentor courage, you embody it more fully. There will still be days when old habits resurface, a sudden rush of worry before a medical appointment, a pang of self-doubt before a social gathering. Instead of frustration, greet these moments as part of the natural rhythm of change. Remember that neural pathways take time to fade. Each time you return to breath, to action, to mindful observation, you reinforce the new circuitry. Over months and years, the fearful loops become faint echoes, like trails in a forest slowly reclaimed by grass and wildflowers. Consider cultivating a personal mantra to anchor this process. A simple phrase, such as, I walk with steady heart or courage lives in me, repeated silently throughout the day can become a kind of neural signature. The repetition cues both body and mind toward stability, and over time, the phrase becomes more than words. It becomes a felt reality. Nature remains one of the most profound teachers of resilience. Spend unhurried time among trees, mountains, or waves. Notice how the forest does not rush to heal after a storm. It simply continues. The ocean accepts every tide. This wordless wisdom seeps into your nervous system, showing by example how to remain grounded through change. Walking outdoors, especially on uneven ground, also strengthens balance and coordination, weaving physical confidence into the mental. Financial or health concerns may still arise, but your relationship to them evolves. Instead of spiraling into what-if scenarios, you meet each challenge step by step. Perhaps you schedule regular checkups, create a modest budget, or learn a new skill to supplement income. Action replaces rumination, and with each completed task, the mind records a victory. I can face reality and move forward. Friendships deepen in surprising ways. People are drawn to the quiet assurance you now carry. Conversations become richer, less guarded. Laughter comes more easily. You may find that even disagreements lose their sting. Confidence allows you to listen without defensiveness and to speak without aggression. This harmony reinforces itself, proving daily that courage is not hardness, but ease. As the months pass, take time to acknowledge the transformation. Stand before a mirror not to critique but to witness. The face that meets you there carries lines of experience, eyes bright with curiosity, posture aligned by choice rather than chance. This is the face of someone who refused to be ruled by fear, who chose growth at every turn. Let gratitude flood through you for every breath, every step, every brave decision that brought you here. Your journey illustrates a universal truth. The capacity to rewire the brain and live with unshakable confidence is not limited by age, background, or circumstance. It belongs to anyone willing to practice presence, to act with intention, to trust the body's wisdom and the mind's endless ability to adapt. You are the living proof. Confidence earned through daily practice begins to ripple outward in ways you might not expect. Small errands that once seemed like chores, grocery shopping, visiting the post office, meeting a neighbor, become opportunities for quiet connection. You notice the color of the sky as you walk, exchange warm words with strangers, and feel a subtle but unmistakable sense of belonging. What once felt like background noise, the rhythm of a bustling street, the chatter of a cafe, now feels like music to which you are a natural participant. The world has not changed, but your relationship to it has transformed. You may start to see fear for what it truly is, an invitation to expand. Each time a new worry surfaces, you pause and think, here is another doorway. Instead of recoiling, you lean forward. This is not recklessness. It is trust in your own resilience. Imagine being invited to speak at a community event. The old reflex might whisper, decline. Someone younger will do it better. Instead, you accept, acknowledging the flutter in your stomach as the exhilarating signal of growth. On the evening of the event, as you stand beneath the lights and share your story, you realize that fear has become fuel, a spark of energy that lights your words. Physical practices deepen this evolution. Yoga, Pilates, gentle martial arts. Each movement sequence is a conversation between body and mind. Balance poses teach focus and calm. Strength-building exercises remind you of capability. With every stretch and measured breath, you feel the old belief, I am fragile, dissolve. Your body carries you with grace, and that embodied confidence flows naturally into thought and action. Creative exploration can expand even further. Perhaps you begin to write a memoir, painting not only with words but with the memories of a life well lived. Each chapter rekindles forgotten details and strengthens the neural circuits of narrative and imagination. Or you may take up photography, training your eye to notice subtle shifts of light and shadow. Art invites you to inhabit the present moment so completely that fear finds no room to linger. Technology, once intimidating, may become a playground. You learn to edit photos on a tablet, connect with distant friends through video calls, or explore virtual travel experiences. The initial learning curve might have seemed steep, but each mastered skill becomes another proof point that age is no barrier to curiosity. Your brain, delighted by novelty, responds with fresh synapses and a sense of accomplishment. Relationships with family and friends also take on new depth. With fear diminished, you speak more openly about love and gratitude. You might call an old friend just to say how much their presence has meant, or write a heartfelt letter to a grandchild. These gestures, simple yet profound, create bonds that nourish both giver and receiver. Neuroscientists find that such expressions of affection release oxytocin, the hormone of connection, which in turn reduces stress and strengthens immunity, a beautiful example of how emotional courage supports physical health. You will still encounter moments of uncertainty, an unexpected medical result, a sudden change in plans, a global event that shakes the news cycle. But your response is different now. Instead of spiraling into anxiety, you pause, breathe, and recall the countless times you have adapted before. Your body remembers the practice. Your mind recalls the victories. Fear may knock, but you answer the door with calm clarity, inviting it to sit quietly until it fades. Even solitude transforms. Time alone, once tinged with unease, becomes a cherished space for reflection and creativity. You may find joy in slow mornings with tea and music, in evening walks beneath a changing sky, in the gentle rhythm of tending a garden. Solitude is no longer emptiness but presence, a reminder that your own company is more than enough. Perhaps you embark on travels, near or far. A weekend by a quiet lake, a train journey through rolling countryside, or even an overseas adventure you once thought impossible. Each trip, whether grand or modest, reaffirms that the unknown is an open invitation, not a threat. You navigate new streets with curiosity, savor unfamiliar flavors, and gather stories that enrich your sense of self. Through all of this, gratitude remains the steady heartbeat. You pause each day to notice the blessings that surround you. The laughter of a friend, the resilience of your body, the beauty of the evening sky. Gratitude not only brightens the present, it strengthens neural circuits of optimism, making confidence the natural default of your mind. As seasons turn, the evidence of transformation is undeniable. Friends comment on your vibrant energy, your willingness to try new things, the peaceful steadiness in your voice. They may ask your secret, and you smile, knowing it is no secret at all, only the patient work of choosing growth, breath by breath, day by day. You understand now that conquering fear is not about force, but about relationship. Fear is no longer an enemy, but a teacher, a signal pointing toward what matters most. It reminds you where your deepest desires lie, where the next chapter waits. And with each step you take toward those desires, you reaffirm the truth. Confidence is not a gift granted by youth or circumstance. It is the natural outcome of living with attention, compassion, and courage. Nighttime arrives like a soft velvet curtain, and you realize how differently you greet it now. Where once the dark hours might have carried a quiet unease, they have become a sanctuary of reflection. As you settle into bed, you trace the small victories of the day, the conversation you started with a stranger, the new skill you practiced, the lingering laughter from a friend's phone call. These moments, so ordinary on the surface, are powerful evidence that confidence is now your natural rhythm. Sleep comes easily because the mind no longer rehearses worries. It simply rests. In the morning, you wake to a gentle light, aware of your breathing before the first thought forms. You stretch, smile, and feel the quiet thrill of another day. It is a subtle but profound change. Life itself has shifted from something to manage into something to savor. You no longer measure time by fear's calendar. Instead, you follow a compass set to curiosity and gratitude. Breakfast becomes a celebration of simple abundance. The aroma of coffee, the color of fruit, the warmth of the mug in your hands. Opportunities to test your new courage appear everywhere. Perhaps you volunteer to mentor younger people, sharing lessons from your own journey. Standing before a group eager for guidance, you speak with clarity and humor, and the room responds with respect. In those moments, you feel not only confident but timeless, as if the years behind you have distilled into pure wisdom. You realize that your story, far from being finished, is a resource that can illuminate countless others. Travel, whether across the world or to a nearby park, deepens this sense of timelessness. You might stroll through a bustling market in a distant city, savoring unfamiliar spices and sounds. You might hike a quiet trail at dawn, the world awash in dew and bird song. Each step affirms your ability to navigate novelty. Fear has no foothold when wonder fills every sense. Even unexpected challenges, a delayed train, a sudden storm become part of the adventure. Proof that adaptability is its own form of strength. Your inner dialogue, once crowded with caution, now carries a gentle humor. When an old worry surfaces, will I embarrass myself? Am I too old for this? You meet it with a smile and a simple question. Is that really true? Most of the time, the answer is no, and the thought drifts away like a cloud. This practice, repeated hundreds of times, rewires the brain more surely than any sudden revelation. It is the quiet discipline of choosing truth over fear. Relationships flourish under this new light. Family members notice the steadiness in your presence. Friends are drawn to your laughter, which rings richer and freer than before. You listen deeply, speak honestly, and set boundaries with kindness. You find that confidence is not loud or forceful. It is patient, respectful, and clear. It allows you to say yes when something excites you and no when it does not, without apology or guilt. Your creativity continues to blossom. Perhaps you join a local theater group, write poetry, or learn to play a musical instrument. Each creative act is a dialogue between heart and mind, an affirmation that growth has no age limit. The joy of making something new, whether a melody, a story, or a carefully prepared meal, fuels a cycle of inspiration that keeps the brain supple and the spirit bright. Spiritual reflection adds another layer of calm strength. Whether through formal meditation, prayer, or quiet walks beneath the stars, you sense a connection to something vast and enduring. This perspective shrinks fear to its true size, a passing ripple on a much greater sea. You begin to trust the unfolding of life, confident not because you control every outcome, but because you have learned to meet whatever comes with an open heart. Health habits that once felt like chores now feel like gifts. You savor the crisp air during a morning walk, delight in the rhythm of swimming laps, or find joy in preparing wholesome meals. Each act of self-care becomes a declaration. My body is my ally. You notice strength returning to muscles, clarity sharpening in thought, and vitality radiating from within. This feedback loop reinforces itself. Confidence encourages healthy choices, and those choices reinforce confidence. Even the inevitable realities of aging, aches, changes, losses, no longer carry the same sting. You meet them with a mix of acceptance and proactive care. When a new challenge arises, you consult experts, gather information, and make decisions with calm authority. Fear might flicker, but it cannot take root because you have cultivated a deep trust in your own capacity to adapt. As seasons pass, you become a quiet beacon to others. Younger friends and even strangers seek your perspective, curious about the serenity you embody. You share it freely, not as a set of rigid rules, but as lived experience. The story of someone who learned that courage is a practice, confidence a habit, and fear a teacher disguised as an adversary. Your very presence communicates that possibility, and so the narrative continues, not with a grand finale, but with a steady unfolding. Each dawn brings another chance to explore, to love, to learn. You no longer ask whether you are too old, because the question has lost meaning. You are simply alive, fully, vibrantly, joyfully alive, meeting each moment with the quiet strength of someone who has rewired the brain not through force, but through daily acts of gentle bravery.